Good morning, YouTube. It is time. Man, this is 3 days in a row. I am on a roll. Hopefully you guys can handle the content. We'll slow down here in a little while. But being that we have a lot to cover, we're going to dive right in today. I'm going to try and bring you guys up to speed as I start getting reacclimated to the NHL world. I am your buddy, Chapadong. You can find me out on Twitter like Madonna says. Here's where you find it. At Chapadong out on Twitter. And this is Chop Talk. We're going to try and name this little blog, video, log, vlog, whatever the hell you call it these days. And we're going to try and push this thing going forward as an all-inclusive one-stop shop to kind of what it is, what I do, what I teach, how I coach people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Give you a little sample, a little teaser, a little taste of the content that we provide at dfsarmy.com. That's where I am a coach and contributor, as you already know. Once again, thank you for all of the likes. Thank you for all of the subscribes. We're obviously growing. The follower count on Twitter keeps going. The subscribe numbers keep going up on YouTube. I really appreciate that. That fuels the fire. It lets me know. And obviously, the more I get, the more I give. That's just kind of how transparent I am when it comes to this kind of stuff. Just trying to give back to the community that is a lot of fun and promote the community within my community, whatever you want to call it, dfsarmy.com. That is who allows me to have this voice and do this for you. So thanks again. Run over to dfsarmy.com, give them a shot. You can see that the coupon code CHOP earns you 10% off each month, and the link will be in the description of this video, and also you find my links scattered all over the place on Twitter on a daily basis. So without further ado, let's dive in. As I show you on Slack every time, in here we post our winning lineups just to let you guys know where they come from and who's doing them. Yesterday was not a good day for the NBA for us. It's one of the rare bad days that we've had, and you know, it is what it is. But some guys still were able to win. They set up the optimizer, the domination station, in their favor, and they were able to do a little bit. Here's a football post from a member, said it was his biggest win in DFS, and the lineup was built basically on information inside DFS Army. $1,500, not a bad deal. Granted, that was NFL from last week, but it's a huge score, and I would have, you know, better late than never, right? And let's see, 150 into 500, 25 into 57, winners of all kinds, guys. Let's go ahead, let's close that out. As I've shown you before, we've got a lot of channels, a lot of coaching, a lot of great conversation that goes on a daily basis. Let's close out this. Let's show you the new tool. This is yesterday's. We don't have the new one updated yet, which is not a big deal, but I just want to show you some of the colors. And if you saw the video 2 days ago, you can see that we have the Vegas lines, we have the implied team totals, the overall over-under, and we can start picking from that. We have the team record the last 21 days, which is roughly 10 days. We're working on adding other players to that as far as lines that you can stack and the salaries and things with some basic stats on the players, things like that. So this sheet will continue to evolve and get better. Hopefully it becomes the best tool in the industry for our VIPs. You'll see me play with it some, but you won't see me really teach off of the current information much, because honestly, we don't give the milk away for free. You got to come inside dfsarmy.com and you got to give us a shot. But there are a lot of good stats here. If you like Corsi numbers, we'll talk about those someday. There's Corsi for, Corsi against, broken down per 60 minutes. There's a lot of trends and things that show you kind of who's hot, who's not. And then a little bit of projected goalie that'll show you things that I look for. Who scores a lot of goals? Who, you know, what have they been doing lately? Are they running hotter or colder than this season-long baseline? Same with giving up goals. And last night it was not hard to determine in this little 2-game slate that it was crap. And I didn't do well on it. I don't know a lot of guys that did. Some did. I saw them on the leaderboards. They weren't, you know, guys I was talking to, so they were on a different train of thought than me, which obviously theirs was right, mine was wrong last night. But once again, that's just the way it goes. So cracking into today, let's take a little bit different approach, a little bit different method into how we find some of these stats and how we start determining hockey lineups and hockey players and things to target. I showed you this the other day, and I'll show you that again as time goes forward. But one thing, another place to start is vegasinsider.com. And it's a decent free site. It allows you to look at Vegas odds for NBA, NFL, MLB when the season's running, et cetera, and really provides you pretty decent information. The thing that I like about it the most is that it shows you the open and then it shows you a consensus. I'm a big consensus fan. Westgate, Mirage, Will Hill, whatever. I don't care about the individual casinos. What I care about is the overall consensus. What are most of them saying? You know, they used to score diving in the Olympics and figure skating in the Olympics by getting, you know, whatever it was, 6 or 8 or 10 judges all side by side, and they all scored what they saw. They threw out the high score, threw out the low score, averaged the middle, and that was your score. I like that method of consensus because it takes the outliers and tosses them out. Let's say that I just have a hard-on for Rob Gronkowski. Then I'm going to probably overvalue him just as a little bit of bias that I can't quite get out of my head. We all try to be unbiased, but we all have our biases, period, end of story. If I'm a St. Louis Blues fan, I probably like Vladimir Tarasenko. I'm either going to like him too much or I'm going to undervalue him, trying to overcorrect for the fact that I like him too much. We all go through that. So if you're coming to me for hockey advice and where's the number one winger tonight, and I'm constantly throwing Vladimir Tarasenko out there, some nights he might be, some nights he might not be, you don't necessarily want to listen to just my opinion. You want to get various opinions. You want to listen to that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy so that you can say, well, they all rank Vladimir somewhere around 3-4 tonight, and Silly Chop over there still has him at number 1. Boom. Throw out the outlier, average the rest, and now you're on to something that's probably going to be a little bit more accurate. So this consensus lines and money lines and whatnot is a better idea to me at what is going to happen, or it's a little bit more accurate version of Vegas when you combine all these sports books together. Now, the reason you compare it with the Open, I want to see if that line changes. See, this one's drifting a little bit in favor of Boston. Opened at -200. Now it's up to -210. It's a little bit better for Boston. The public tends to like Boston. I want to see if there's a big jump later based on news release or something like that. So I will follow this a little bit throughout the day on the teams that I'm targeting. And I'm going to try and pick up some of that later line movement to see, excuse me while I yawn, to see where this stuff goes, to see where these lines drift. Toronto favored at 135, now 145. Okay, so if you like Toronto, you might be on the right track today. Vegas is supporting, you know, your penchant for taking some Toronto skaters tonight. Pittsburgh stayed the same. A lot of the volume, you know, it's not like the NFL. It doesn't get a lot of volume. 170 down to 165. Sometimes it moves out. Now, I'm not looking for these little bitty dinky moves. I'm looking for bigger moves. As I scroll down this larger slate, then I'll come back later in the day, and I'm looking for a big discrepancy between the open and the consensus line. That's what I want to see. If this line all of a sudden goes from a -115 to a -140, I'm going to like that. If it goes from a -115 to a +120, I'm going to like seeing that. Because it's going to tell me a clear direction of where some really sharp money hit most times and tell me where those guys are thinking things are going to go. And sometimes the sports bettors or the industry knows where Vegas is wrong, waits till the last minute, pops on that line, and then that can redirect a little bit of what I'm thinking inside these sports when it comes to DFS. So VegasInsider.com, pretty good little resource for you. If I go to NHL.com, this is another thing that I like to do. This gives you a good overall view of the league. Okay? What we're going to look for is team stats and player stats. I want to know who the leaders are. I want to know who the powerful offenses are. See if I can't pick up on anything. Now, I'd like to ideally find a place, so if you have a place, please suggest it, that shows me the last, say, 10 games, the last 12 games, something like that, last 2, 3, 4 weeks. I want to know who's running hot and who's not. Like we showed in the DFS Army tool, we bust that down and we compare it against the baseline because we want to see how these guys ebb and flow with their baseline. Are they above it or below it? Are they running hot or cold? It can help me get on or off of a player before the pricing adjusts on the DFS, DFS sites. And that is where really we're trying to go with all of this information, is find the value. Who's underpriced and outperforming that price? Those are the players we should key on, regardless of if they're on our favorite team or on a team we hate or whatever. And we're trying to do the best job we can within that. And usually he who finds the value wins. That's what we're trying to do. Now, when I look at the team, the overall team, go to NHL.com, go to statistics, and go to the teams tab. You're going to pull up all of the teams. I don't care about games played. I just sorted it by that or the default or whatever. I don't care about team wins, losses, ties. This is freaking fantasy, man. I don't give a crap if the team goes 0-82 if they score 8 goals and lose every game of the year 9-8. I just want the people on the team that are scoring the points. So what I'm looking for is which teams are generally scoring goals for. That's what I want. And I see, and I might even write these down if I'm smart. And I'm going to write down, say, the top 5, top 10 teams. Tampa Bay, New York Islanders, Winnipeg, Toronto, Vegas Golden Knights, Colorado. That is a little bit of a shock considering the past few years, but they're holding on. They keep scoring damn goals. Good for them. New York Rangers, Dallas Stars, New Jersey Devils. Another little bit of a surprise. Man, I need more coffee. I apologize. Nashville, St. Louis, and this is why we need the lower numbers, or why we need the shorter numbers to compare against a baseline. St. Louis started off very, very good. Now, I am a St. Louis fan, so that's why I know this one. There are other teams in the league going through the same thing. I don't know them yet, but I will get there. St. Louis has started off scoring a lot of goals, and then they had a rash of injuries. Next thing you know, they're not scoring any more goals anymore. They've also settled back because, honestly, they were outperforming their capabilities. They're not that good of an offense. I mean, they're good, but they're not that good. And then they lost all those players. And the next thing you know, boom, they're not scoring goals anymore. So this number is skewed. It's biased. If I looked at the last 2 or 3 weeks, I would see that St. Louis offense is a shit show. And you'd see that very painfully obvious, too. So we don't necessarily want, that's where a little bit of this interpretation comes in. This is an overall bigger picture look at what we're trying to do. But you take a look at these 10 teams or so, and then we want to see who sucks, who's allowing a ton of goals. And let's see if any of these teams are matching up against. So we got Vegas, Colorado, New York Islanders, Tampa Bay, of course, Winnipeg, Colorado, Washington. Okay, so we got a few of them that I just wrote down. Dallas, New Jersey. I want a nice little sample to start from because I want to be able to find good matchups every night. Goals against. Who sucks? Arizona. New York Islanders. That's good. Whoever plays New York, take New York, game stack it. That's a good indicator. Vancouver allows a lot of goals. Edmonton. Yuck. Buffalo, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's righting the ship a little bit from what I've seen, so that may be one that we need to interpret a little bit differently. Ottawa, Montreal. Okay, there's a good little sample there. Hey, Colorado's top 10 in there too, so that's good. Whoever plays Colorado, we want to take some Colorado and take the team against Colorado. Another game stack. God forbid the New York Islanders play the Colorado Avalanche. That is going to be a green light game stack because these teams are giving goals and scoring goals. That's a good thing. The other thing that we can do is we can run into the players tab. Do the exact same thing. Who is scoring all the goals? Well, Ovechkin, Kucherov, Lee. Look at the teams they're coming off of. Teams that we've already targeted. You know what I mean? So this helps. We're going to find some of the production within some of these teams. You want to write these down, write them down too. Assists obviously matter. We want to know, and again, other than Voracek, we've got some, and Garreau. Hey, there's a nice little hidden stack. If Voracek and Garreau are getting a lot of, I can't pronounce his name right, sorry, but if they're getting a lot of assists and they're scoring some points, they're sneaky little picks because the other method that I'm using isn't going to pick up on that. So again, it's not completely foolproof. Edmonton in Connor McDavid's dropping a lot of assists. That's good stuff. That works really, really well. We do favor goals when it comes to hockey, but Klingberg and there's Johnny Hockey. So you just get a feel for these guys, and of course your points leaders. Again, we're going back to the Tampa Bays, the Islanders, a little bit of the Colorado Winnipegs and stuff like that. And there's your Philly boys again. So you got to be paying attention to some of these guys because they may not show up on the overall team list, but they're still having great individual seasons. We want to be aware of them, and we want to look for them facing a team that is giving up a lot of goals because that's going to allow them to be in a positive situation, and that's what we're looking for. So this is just another thing that I do. I check it periodically. I don't need to check it every single day because it won't change much. But, once a week or so, come back and rerun this list and look through it. Maybe write the names down. Maybe keep them on your sheet for a few days while you're looking at it. Make sure you're focused. You're your core offenses in hockey are focused on these players, on these teams when they find themselves in good spots. It's kind of the whole season-long mentality, and it's a sidebar, but it's another season-long mentality thing where when you draft Le'Veon Bell, when you draft Le'Veon Bell or David Johnson, pardon the injury, but 1 or 2 overall in your season-long leagues, you don't care about the matchups. You're never benching the guy. And he's going to have good games against great teams defensively that is going to blow your mind and piss your opponent off in your season-long leagues. You just run them. The studs are going to get their numbers most of the time. They may start off slow. That just means they're going to rage back, when the numbers normalize. But this is the same thing in hockey, in baseball. Mike Trout's going to get his numbers. Giancarlo Stanton's most likely going to get his numbers. LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, they're going to get their numbers. These guys are on. You look for maybe slightly favorable spots, but you're never too far wrong if you just run them out there every day. Now, with DFS, we have to worry about pricing and stuff like that too, but just keep that concept in the back of your head. It's okay to have your favorite players as long as they are performing. If you just ran Kucherov and Stamkos every night, and centered them around other more volatile value, you're going to be competitive. Okay? It's going to work out for you a lot of the time. There may be other nights where you use, maybe you want to use Bailey and Tavares. That's fine too. But I'm just saying that through the course of the season, if you just start running these guys out there most nights, you're going to be okay. Don't be so finely tuned that you try to nitpick every single little thing. That's where you're going to overthink the DFS game, and it's going to lose long term for you because you're trying to time the market. When we buy our mutual funds and our 401ks, we don't just buy, try to day trade stocks within our 401k. We buy and we hold. Same thing. Get rid of that. We can run down the starting lineups tonight. We can start looking for spots that we want to pick on. Boston Bruins, Tuukka Rask, 200 favorite. I like the spot. Scrolling down a little bit more, Pittsburgh, not terrible. Toronto, Philly. I'm looking for big favorites. 187, Minnesota Wild, Dubnyk back in play. Jake Allen, 165, Dallas Stars. You're going to have to watch this news. Jake Allen may or may not get the start. Carter Hutton has the hot hand right now. Minus 118, minus 128. No line here. Minus 173, Pekka Rinne in play, in my opinion. Where did Tampa Bay go? Were they one that was offline? Where did Tampa Bay go? There we go. Minus 165 for Vasil. The reason I know that I already looked him up. I'll show you why here in a little bit. Let's take some of these goalies. Let's call it Tuukka Rask, Pekka Rinne, Vasilevsky, or whatever, however you pronounce his name. And is there anybody else that's really worth it tonight? I mean, a quick scan tells me not really. Another thing that you can do is you can throw down their records and look at the goalie's record, and that is another one. Watch Vasil when I show you him. His record this year, I guess this particular page isn't going to show it. Thanks for the help. Dang. Oh, well. I apologize, but it's a pretty good win-loss record. Maybe down here at the bottom they'll show it. No? Oh, come on, guys. See, there's no perfect site. There just isn't. There isn't a site to show everything. Sometimes you're just going to have to use multiple resources. But when you find a guy who's, like 25-6, that's a good thing. Because it just, when you're banking on the win in hockey, it's a very important, 12 points, then you're going to want a guy who tends to win a lot. I mean, good matchups, bad matchups, sometimes like the season-long mentality, you just want to run him out there. Vasil's in a great spot. He's expensive, so we're going to need to see reasons to come off of him, money-wise, for somebody that can get us a comparable score. And, it looks like tonight maybe we've got some of those options. But, from 9,600 down to 8,900, is that $700 enough? I don't know. Is 8,300 enough? Yeah, the 1,300 is probably significant. So, we'll take looks at it. The other thing that we do is we run down here, we start value hunting. Okay, and this is where we'll start building the lineup, and I'll show you why. There's 2 ways I'm going to show you that today, and then we'll probably wrap this baby up. As I go, let's see, back up here to the top. I didn't filter out my offenses today. I just ran the whole league. I did run 4 weeks, and I came down per game because I really only care about who's running hot, who's scoring points per game right now, fantasy points per game. I sort them by salary, and I scroll all the way to the bottom of the list. It's a very crude way to find value, but I start at the bottom, and I'm looking for who's got 8 to 10 points or so a game. There's 9. So Pitlick's in play. If he's not injured, I don't know. The other thing I might do, click on his name, open up his game log, like I've done before, and where do you run? Okay, he had 1-2 good games and a bunch of crap. So he's probably a GPP type player. I'm not really hip to his jive in cash games. There, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name. It's freaking hockey. You can't even pronounce half the names out there. Another couple of big games and another pile of crap. So another GPP type guy, which is what you're going to find down here in the bottom salary ranges. But there's another 8 there. 8 there. It's just kind of what I do. It's little barriers I have. There's other ways to do this. This is just one way. There's a 9. Edmonton defenseman. Can take a few less points off of him, but it's pretty consistent 4, 5, 6. But there's a couple of 10s and 20s. Don't really like it much. Good thing we're still down here in the 3,500 range. If I run Vasilevsky, man, I'm going to have to find some value in here somewhere. So Perlini over in Arizona. There, 19, 13, 10, last 3 games. Got me a 0, a couple of zeros, but he's got me 12, 14, 10. He's got me 10 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 7 games. Boom, value. Perlini. I may go down here to Arizona, double check, see what line he's on. Probably going to be on one of the lower. Well, looky there. Line 1, power play 2. Boom, lock him in. There's some value. If I don't already have him in here, I need to probably consider putting him in here. Okay? What I did last night is I went poking around and I used a different, that's method 1, let's call it. Scrolling up through the list, seeing who's running hot and who's running hot. Let's get up to the top to the names you recognize. Let me show you why this matters. Let's say we need about 2 to 3x salary, a standard DFS multiplier. I need somewhere between 18 and 20 points. Am I getting it? Yes, out of Kucherov. He's still running fine according to his numbers. Cooled off a little bit, Stamkos. Cooled off a little bit, Connor McDavid. Running, a little bit hot, Tavares. Malkin's fine. Cold, Sidney Crosby. Don't use him right now. He'll come back. It's Sidney Crosby. A little cold. Here's a hotter one. As we get cheaper, it's going to get better. Nathan McKinnon is, running hot. There's another one. Eichel from Buffalo, running hot. These are guys that you need to be thinking about stacking their line mates around and running a core of players through. See how far, look at this, 20 over the last 8 games. Brent Burns finally heating up. God, where's that been? Let's see his game logs really quick. See what happens here. 16, 6, 17, 19, 16, 20, 29, 38. Look at this. It's cash safe. It's finally cash safe. If you go down to the beginning of the year, we weren't getting a lot out of that. We were getting a lot of the 6s and 8s. But now, look, he's back on track. So, Brett Burns, this is the end. This is how you find some of these guys. Lock them in. Raquel. Okay. 16 points out of that, per game out of the last whatever for 7,000 salary or under 7,000 salary. Fine. Look at here. Victor Hedman running hot. If I ran Victor Hedman and Brent Burns and then just went value wingers, probably not a terrible idea. 12, 17, 22, 36, 20, 20. Okay, so you see my point? You see my point? Now we're going to try, look at there, 16 points for a $5,800 guy. 16 points for a $5,800 defenseman. 18 points for Tyler Johnson. Dude's been hot. League knows he's hot. So it is what it is. Scroll down here. Now, 13, 14 points for cheaper players. This is how we find value. How's another way to find value? This will be method 2. You can just run right down the list, separate out your wingers, go down to the bottom, start looking for guys that are getting you 3x. I need 9 points. Can I find, there's a 5.4, 5.7, I'm looking, there's an 8. So I would take a look at Grimaldi. And I would see he's running cold. I'm not going to like what I see when I click on his game log. And this is, again, if he's even not hurt. That comes in the later rounds. I'm just trying to pick out some of the value. And if I can keep scrolling up here, we'll find a few. If you look, here's what I found with some of these guys. Chychrun. I picked him out, out of this pile. Running a little bit hotter. Value play. Look at his last few games. double digits in 4 of his last 5, and 8 in the other, 8 in all 6. So not bad. Now what I'm going to spend the rest of the day trying to do once I've spotted some of this value is I'm going to start upgrading from the bottom up. See, like, let's take, we got 6,600 to play with, and I ran Vasilevsky in here and Nathan MacKinnon in here. So if I want to go back to the starting lineups and run the Colorado Avalanche with around Nathan MacKinnon, where'd they go? Passed him up. Nathan MacKinnon's on the 1-1. Rantanen and Landeskog. Landeskog and Rantanen are both cheaper. Okay, so let's see if I can fit them in. Let's take out Keller. Put in Rantanen. Take out Heinen, who's actually running hot. Run Landeskog. Do I still have this space? I still have 4,700 left. I just stacked the Colorado 1. The Colorado 1 is a top 10 team facing tonight. A team is, are they giving up goals? Colorado Columbus Blue Jackets, were they on our list? They were not. But, you can't argue with the running hot offense. It's one way to go. So that's stacked up. And if I wanted to, I can even take a couple of these guys out. Let's say I wanted exposure. This is another concept. If I wanted exposure to MacKinnon but didn't want to pay the price, bam. I've got Landeskog and Rantanen. I've got my exposure. These guys are either going to score a goal from MacKinnon or feed MacKinnon, who gets the goal. I've still got my exposure to a hot player and a league leader. So I'm not too worried about it. I can spread out a little bit. One of the things I like doing is limiting in cash games, limiting my skaters to 2 per team instead of a full 3 or stacking a full line. I even like getting different lines of exposure, which you'll hear me talk about a lot. Rantanen and MacKinnon, is there a power play 1 somewhere else? Look at that, Jost. If Jost was worth a damn, she's probably not. 9, yeah, see, no scoring, so no use there. But sometimes you'll find this guy is running pretty hot, and when he does, you can take him and Landeskog or something like that. Get your exposure to MacKinnon on the power play 1. Get your line mate, your 5-on-5 exposure to MacKinnon here, and then run a second line just in case the third line's the one that pops in a couple of goals that night. Just like last night when we were running those shit offenses, and the 2 and 3 lines were doing the scoring. So, guys, this is just a brief rundown of what we do. It's a basic build. Here's a bottom-up line. Spend the money, upgrade. But these are decent value plays. You're going to want to correlate this better than scatter shot all over the place. Hey, you're welcome, Gabe. You're going to want to make sure that you correlate, and we'll work maybe more on the next video on correlating. Maybe I'll start with a bottom up, and then we'll continue from here on out, and we'll have our value in there, and I'll show you where and why we build these lineups up and start grabbing those studs when we have the spare money to do it. So this will wrap up today's 30-minute video or so. Hopefully you got something out of it. Like I said, click like, click subscribe. I'll keep doing it. Follow me out on Twitter. Let's talk. If you've got questions and you're a VIP inside DFS Army, by all means, hit me up. We'll answer them back and forth. If not, I'll do my best to keep up out on Twitter. Hit me up out there. I just love knowing that you guys follow along with what I do and that we get to interact a little bit because, like I said, I just like giving back to the DFS community, and there's no better place to do it than inside DFSArmy.com as a VIP. So peace out, guys. Remember, friends don't let friends pay retail. Use the coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, for a 10% discount. It's a grandfathered discount. And for those of you that are leaving for NFL, and your NFL players only, I'm going to tell you 2 things. Number 1, your game gets better next NFL season when you play year-round. When you start learning basketball, you start learning hockey, you start learning baseball, your game gets better because you stay focused on the concepts and you start learning the nuances of the other sports and pick out other techniques that we mention in those other sports that can apply back to football, but they're not direct football tactics, so we don't mention them during the football season. Trust me on that one. If you play year-round, you're definitely going to get better in NFL next year, and you're going to wipe the floor with your friends in your season-long drafts because you're just going to be ahead of the curve by a mile compared to the other guys that don't know about us. If you really want to share the love, tell them about us, and we'll all be members together, and we'll all have a good time. But number 2, the price in the DFS Army started off, I don't know what it was back in the day, $10-12, and some guys are still grandfathered in at that price. Most of them are sitting around $20-25, but the price, as we continue to add resources, add coaches, add contributors and whatnot, the price creeps up to pay for the expenses that we incur to build the tools, to build the optimizer, do all the stuff that we're doing to bring you guys the best value out there on the World Wide Web. And What we need to remember is that your price is grandfathered in. You lock in today, use the 10% off, $35.99 per month, and stay that way, because next August it will not be $39, I promise you. Maybe 40, 50, $55 a month or something. It's not going to be 100 or something ridiculous, but it's going to keep creeping upwards. Lock in your price now. If you are a guy who is at the beginning of an NFL season, you're only paying $25 or so, and now you're contemplating leaving, you almost can't afford to leave. Because when you come back, it's going to be $20 a month more. If you cancel your membership, you lose the grandfathered price. Pretty simple. Don't lose that grandfathered price, man. I'm a cheapskate. I don't like spending other people's money. That's why I always throw my coupon code out there. I want to save everybody as much money as I possibly can. I can't help you if you cancel your membership and come back next year expecting to get the grandfathered price. It's not going to happen for you. So don't let it go. Don't let it go. In the meantime, I'm going to let you go because it's been 30 minutes, and I will talk to you hopefully another time this week, if not the beginning of next week. Peace out, homies. We'll talk to you soon.